Okay, now in this video, we will focus on things like level 1.2, question 9 through 16. Now you can see the questions a little bit different than what we saw earlier. Like earlier, it was only one square root, right? And now all of a sudden, we have two square roots. Okay, now before we start these questions, I do want to ask you something. Okay, I do want to ask you something, and that is, do you know what is the outcome and what's the result of the product of square root 2 times square root of 2? Okay, do you know what it is? Okay, give yourself 5 seconds. Okay, now there are a couple of ways you can figure this out, and I'm going to go through both ways. Okay, see if it fits your answer. And by the way, the answer is 2. Okay, but how do you get to 2? Okay, now there are two ways you can get through this. One is that if you realize what we said earlier, remember we talked about the properties earlier, like this one. Okay, so if you know how to go from the left to the right, and well, that's equal, right? It's equal, so we can also go from right to the left. So meaning that if it is a multiplication, the numbers underneath the square root, they can be multiplied together, and then you can just go ahead and process it. Okay, now you can do that. You can do that, and it works pretty well if the numbers are small. But if the numbers get bigger, and I would say that might not be very preferable. Okay, and also there's an easier way. Okay, this is like okay, but it's not smart enough. Okay, we're gonna do this. Now, when you have square root 2 times square root 2, so that means, hey, square root 2 is multiplying by itself. And that means it is square root 2 square, right? And what does it mean by square root? What does it mean by square root 2 square? Well, the square and the square root, they are going to cancel each other out, which gives you 2. So this will be my preferred and your preferred way of handling these like root 2 times root 2. It's 2. Okay. What about root 3 times root 3? Duh, it's 3. And what about root 5 times root 5? Duh, it's 5, right? So by knowing how to process these would be really, really important, okay? And going through the next few problems. So now let's go ahead and take a look at number 9. Now for number 9, there's nothing we can do to simplify square root of 3, but we could do something with square root of 27. So we say, all right, let's go ahead and simplify square root of 27. Okay, what can we do? Square root of 27, it's 9 times 3, right? So that's 3 root 3, right? 9 times 3, it's underneath the 27, underneath the square root. So 9 is a perfect square. Square root of 9 is 3. That's why there's a 3 outside of the square root, okay? And then now you can see these three things are all multiplying. And hey, square root 3 times square root 3. We just talked about it, right? What's square root 3 times square root 3? It's 3, right? And so these two, let me go ahead and circle these. So these two multiplied together get you 3. Now, don't forget there's still a 3 right here. That gives you a total of not 6, but 9. 3 times 3 is 9, okay? Don't forget that. So that's how it is, okay? We're going to play this game, okay? Can you see the square roots, okay? When they're multiplying, they're the same thing, okay? Square root 3 times square root 3 is 3. Okay, now we see a couple more examples. What about number 10? All right, so we can simplify both numbers here. So square root of 8, if you pay attention to the work that we have done earlier, that becomes 2 root 2 because 8 is 4 times 2, right? And then 32, it's 16 times 2, right? So that becomes 4 times root 2. Now, 4 times 2 is 8, okay? And then Root 2 times root 2, it's 2. So 4 times 2 is 8. 8 times 2 is 16. Okay, so that's how you play the game, okay, with these square roots. You always simplify it. And now, can you do 32 times 8 underneath the square root first, and then you go ahead and find out the factor, and find out the square root of that big number? I mean, you could, but without a calculator, I would say that's really hard. And I'm not that interested in finding out what is 8 times 32. I mean, I could find it, but I'm not that interested. So simplifying first would be a lot easier. Now let's go through a few more examples, shall we? All right, so let's think about square root of 18 and square root of 6. Okay. Now, square root of 18, we have seen it before, right? We've seen it before, and that is 9 times 2. So that becomes 3 root 2, right? 3 root 2. And then now, this is not a number you can like break it down and simplify, but we could actually break it down to square root of 3 times square root of 2. Now, you may ask, wait. It doesn't get anything simpler. Why would you do that? Well, if you look at this line right here, can you see anything special? Okay. You say, wait a second. I see this. And that is the reason that drives us to break down the square root of 6 to square root of 3 times square root of 2. So you got a 3. Square root 2 times square root 2 is 2. So 3 times 2 is 6. And 6 root 3 is your final result. Okay, so that's how it goes. Now let's see a couple more. Okay, let's look at number 12. And we say, what about number 12? Okay, square root of 32. We just did this not too long ago, right? This is right here. So 16 times 2, it's 32, right? So this is just 4 root 2, right? Well, what about root 10? Do we just leave it as root 10, or do we break it down just a little bit? All right. So the hinge is right here. You see the root 2? And we say, yeah, let's go ahead and break down the root 10 to root 5 times root 2. Okay. And then you've got 4 times, well, root 2 times root 2 is 2, right? So 4 times 2 is 8. 8 root 5 is the answer. Now, let's just say one thing, all right? Let's hypothetically speaking, let me use a different color. Let's just say that you were able to simplify the root 32, but you were not sensitive enough to break down the square root of 10. What would happen? Now, what's going to happen is that you would go ahead and multiply the two numbers underneath the square root, but then you've got to be very sensitive and say, is there a way that we can break down the 20? Like simplify it? And we say, yeah, of course. Because root 20, well, 20 is 4 times 5, right? So root 20 is the same thing as 2 root 5. And the 4 and 2 multiply together. Hey, you should get the same answer. Not a problem. So the only the only thing that might look like a problem is that it's longer. Okay. So I mean, if you cannot, if you forget to simplify it, you will still get to the same destination, as long as you are critically asking yourself, can we still simplify it? Okay, can we still simplify it? So the one in blue is what I would really prefer you to do. The one in gray is something that would say, yeah, it's not bad, but it's a little bit more work. Okay, so see if you are okay with it. Okay, all right. So let's see. Let's do one more. All right, let's do number 13, and then you will take care of 14 through 16. All right. So for number 13, so square root of 6. Maybe we can just leave it as square root of 6. Maybe. Let's go ahead and simplify square root of 12 first. What's square root of 12, square root of 12, it's 12 is 4 times 3, right? So we will break it down to 2 root 3. And hey, that's a root 3 right here. Maybe we want to break down the square root of 6 to square root of 3 times square root of 2. And why we want to do that? Because we have this. Root 3 times root 3, it's 3. 3 times 2, it's 6. So then your final answer is 6 root 2. Okay, 6 root 2. Now, just to give you a little way to check your own answer. Okay, if you're practicing in school or at home, if you say, can I just go ahead and check my answer? Is there a way that I can check my answer? Yes, okay, you can put out your phone or get a calculator, and you can just go ahead and type this whole thing into the calculator, get a number, type this in, and get a number, and then you can see if you get the right answer. Now, let me just go ahead and load it up, load up the calculator and see if you can visualize it. Okay, so it is root 6 times root 12, right? So we'll say, yeah, root 6 times root 12, and we'll get an answer. It's not pretty, but it's okay. And then we say 6 times root 2, right? That was our final answer, 6 times root 2, yes. And then we'll go ahead and press enter. And see, they are the same exact number. So that's how we know we have done things correctly, because they should still be equal to each other. All right, so go ahead and try it out 14 through 16 and see if you get the same answer as the answer key. All right, and the next video, we will go ahead and look at some other question 17 through 20. Okay, so we'll come back next video.